So this is my set of Brusho. It comes in a box like this, which is a sorted pack of 12 colours. I believe there are different assortments now. When I got this, I think this might have been the only one, but they do have quite a few different colours in addition to these ones. And in here we do have basically what you could call the basic 12 colour palette with lemon and more of a warm yellow as well. And we've got emerald green and leaf green here, those two. And we've got purple and red and scarlet and orange. And this one is turquoise and dark brown, ultramarine and black. And all of these colours are a mixture of crystals in different colours, which when mixed together bring a sort of one colour to the table, so to speak. The reason why they've got push pins in the top is because you don't want to take the lids off. I heartily suggest that, and I think most people who use this stuff would go along with me, you don't take the lid off. I've never taken the lid off any of them because before I started, I read about it and I discovered that what you need to do is get some of these little push pins with the little plastic handles, and then you make 2 or 3 holes in the top of the pot, and then you leave the push pin in there. And when you use it, you take that out, and the 2 or 3 holes that you've made act like the top of a pepper pot, and you can sprinkle the pigment crystals onto your paper. And that way you have some level of control. If you don't do it like that, believe me, you are most likely going to end up making not only a terrible mess on your paper, but also you'll have crystals in your cat and crystals in your hair and crystals in your dinner, because it gets absolutely everywhere. And another warning I just want to say, please don't let children get hold of these for obvious reasons, because they're probably, like any paint, if you ingest enough of it, it's toxic. So we don't want that, do we? But I mean, for normal use, like what we're going to do, it's not toxic. I'm going to use a piece of Meaden paper here, and I've got some 12x9 rough, 100% cotton, and it's not very rough. The Meaden paper is sort of on the rough side, but it's not what I would call really rough. I'm just going to move my camera up a bit because since I'm using a slightly bigger sheet, if I have the camera down there, you can't see the whole thing. So I'm just going to put that like that. And that is literally edge to edge. I'm going to need a little spray bottle here. This is just an ordinary cheap spray bottle, and I'll use that to wet the paper with. And I've got a few leaves here just to kind of remind me what leaves look like in different colours. Aren't they beautiful? These are blackberry, or I think they're blackberry leaves from the blackberry bush in our garden, cultivated blackberry. It's supposed to be thornless, but believe me, it's got thorns on it like you wouldn't believe. And this is an oak. There's just starting, some of them just starting to turn. Tamsin brought these in for me today. I hadn't noticed that, but they are just starting, which is very early, but they'll take ages before they finally lose their leaves. So anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of inspiration. The colours I'm going to use. The painting that I did the other day, I used black because somebody said, oh, the black Brusho is really interesting. Well, you can see, if you look here, you can see that inside the black there is something that looks a bit like phthalo blue, and there's some orange. And I didn't use anything else except the black. And I kind of like it, but then I kind of don't, because it's just really dark and it's wintry. So I wanted to do something a little bit more autumnal today. And then the lines, the graphic lines, I did using ink and a brush. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. It'll just depend on how the first stage comes out. And like everything else, this is another one I did. I think I did this one first. The one I'm going to do today might be more like this, because this is a style I quite like to do, and I think it's a little bit more accessible, so to speak. And I will need my pen, that is to say this one, my Tombow calligraphy pen. It's a calligraphy pen because it does thick and thin lines, and you go thin or you can go thick, and that's really nice for calligraphy, but it's also very nice for painting. and putting lines over your paintings. So this was done on a smaller sheet. We're going to go for a big sheet. We're going to see what we're going to do and what color are we going to use for the background. Let me think. I did these bright ones here. This one was, I used yellow, lemon yellow, and orange and red to get that blurry effect. And on this one, it was yellow in the background and then orange and brown and so on and so forth. There's actually some painting on here, and I think I will do some painting as well as doing the Brusho background. So, okay, enough talking. Let's just get on with it, and we'll just put some water on here. I'm just going to literally randomly spray. I don't want the whole paper to be soaking wet. And I think I'm going to start with yellow. So we'll take out our little push pin and just put some yellow on here in various places. And you can see straight away it's starting to mix with the water that's on the paper, some places more than others. So that's yellow, and then let's put some orange. There is definitely more than one way of using this stuff. The flowers that I did before, I tried to sort of concentrate the colour in a few places, so I think I might try to do that too. And then you can come in with some water and make it, or you could use a brush. So that was orange, and then we want, I think, probably some scarlet. Okay, put a bit up here too. And it's starting to run a little bit, as you can see. And we could, at this point, add some water. Hang on a minute. Right. If you do big splashes of water, you get big splashes of colour like that. And if you've ever wanted to paint loose, has to be said, this is a way to paint loose. Oops, I didn't mean that. That came out a little bit too much. We'll just pick that up a little bit. That's a bit too much there. That was too much water. Okay, so there we are. You can sort of dab it a little bit if you feel like it. So that's step one. And, you know, you can just do whatever you feel is going to work for you. And I'm kind of feeling my way as I go along as well. What I did before, a little bit, is I took a brush, an ordinary brush, having done this, and I think I'm going to try and do the same thing again. I took a brush, it doesn't matter which brush, and I'm going to put some petals onto these flowers. So I'm painting in from the outside on some of them, because if you go from the inside out, they come up much darker. So it's a good idea sometimes to come in from outside, like that. And as you practice this, you will find you get better. Okay, so we'll come in from the outside again here. You can't completely control what you get with Brusho, but you can avoid a complete messy disaster if you're careful. And I'm learning too, you know, this is, I'm not an expert at this. This is, I think, probably my 6th Brusho painting. I'm going to put a smaller one here. I'm thinking sort of dahlias and asters and things like that. This is a nice big one. And you can, you know, you can definitely put shaped petals in if you want to. So isn't that beautiful? And we'll come in a minute with, you know, a little bit darker colour in the centres, which we can do with our paintbrush. And we'll do some leaves. And you can make some of them really quite dark like that in places. You don't want to mess with it too much, but this is going to be quite dark here, so you need a variety. You want some that are much brighter, darker. It's a lovely scarlet, this red. This one should be quite bright. I'll just do some. If you haven't got this paint, consider investing in a few colours. It's not terribly expensive. I think it's about $30 for a set of 12, or you can buy them individually, but they probably work out a bit more pricey if you buy them individually. I'm not using a very special brush here. This brush doesn't have much of a point. It's a bit old, you know, old and pointless, you know the feeling. And we'll put another one here. This one's going to be very much more yellow. Okay, so this is looking quite good, isn't it? Well, who am I to say whether it's looking good or not? We'll just brush some of this out a little bit here. And now we're going to start thinking about leaves and stems. And I'm not going to try to do the leaves and stems using Brusho. That's going to go away now. And I'll turn to my paints. And I have got here, this will do. I've got some phthalo blue, some, what is this? I think this is green gold. I think that probably will work quite well. I've got some quinacridone rose, and this I think is quinacridone gold. So those 4 colours together will give me colours for my stems and leaves. So I'm going to mix some of this green gold with some of this phthalo blue, just as a starting point. And I'm going to just try dropping in some stems. just a starting point. We're going to make them darker. So with a little bit more blue, a little bit of rose, and a bit more of that to balance it. So we've got a darker green. And then we'll come in again with some shadow. And it's very fun to watch the colours mix and blend, because what will happen is what you're putting on top, because you've got this spray of yellow and red and orange, the green will kind of mix with that. So as you put it on and you start to do your leaves, you'll get all sorts of lovely, happy accidents. I'm just going to swap my brush because this one is actually annoying me a little bit because it's very floppy. Sometimes you want a stiffer brush, don't you? And that one is flippy floppy. So let me see. I tell you what, I'm going to try my Princeton number 8 here. This is an Aqua Elite. That's better. Sometimes you just have to be a little bit brave when it comes to putting your leaves in. You have to kind of go, and you need the right brush, because if you've got the wrong brush, like I had the wrong, because I get stupid shapes like that, you know, and that's not what I wanted. So this Princeton Aqua Elite is lovely. That one, that red one is too old. And even though a brush might not lose all its hairs and it might look as if it's okay, you know, there comes a time when it's just seen better days and it needs to be replaced. Like, what is it I was thinking about replacing the other day? No, not my husband. No, it's a lost cause. What was it? Can't remember now. I was thinking maybe we ought to get a new one. I can't remember what it was. I don't ever usually throw things away unless they are completely, you know, broken, defunct, useless. That brings me back to my husband again. No, I don't mean it. So we're getting some lovely autumn colours here as I'm painting green into the autumn flower colours from behind. And we're just kind of going in between some of them and just absent-mindedly painting leaves. Nothing more relaxing than that. The only thing you have to remember while you're doing this is when to stop. I'm going to do one or two really dark ones. And you can get the dark, you haven't got a dark green here, but you've got phthalo blue, quinacridone rose, and you could use a quinacridone gold, but I'm not going to do that because I'm quite happy with my 3 colours. And it doesn't matter if your leaves go off the side. Sometimes the very dark ones, they just want to leave the party. But we do want a few dark ones. I think it's always a good idea, even if you have to be really brave and put some in the middle. You can make them small. But you need, they talk about colours popping, don't they, a lot in America. I'm talking to Canadians here. You probably do too. I'm going to do a lighter one up here. And I think we're probably more or less done with that. So the next thing to do is to think about maybe putting some veins in. And I'm not going to make a song and a dance about this vein technique because we've used it many, many times. And you just scratch in the veins, and some of them will come up light, some of them will come up dark, some will come up at all, depending on how much water is still left in your leaf. If it's dry or if it's wet, that's dry, that's wet, you get a different effect. And what we need to do now, though, before I forget, because I nearly did, is we have to do some centers in these flowers. And so I think this is where the quinacridone gold is going to come in, because I'm going to get that started and mix it with some quinacridone rose so that we get a nice rusty colour for the centres. And I'm mixing it quite thickly, so there's plenty of paint there. And then I'm just going to drop in some blobs. It won't move as much. It will move still, but it won't move as much if you use the paint fairly thickly. So I'm not adding a lot of water. I'm just picking up the paint fairly thick. And we're just painting in sort of semicircles in different sorts of ways, whatever floats your boat at the particular moment when you hit the paper. That brings them to some sort of life, structure. I'm not going to fiddle too much with the petals. You know, you could do, but once you start that, you're onto a definite one-way trip. So there we are. We have an autumn bouquet, and I'm going to dry that, or let it dry, and then show it to you when it's done, how it looks. Okay. So I think that's probably all I want to do for today. I'm just looking at my camera and thinking, thank goodness it didn't turn itself off while I was videoing, because that would have been not the first time. Oh, this is a neat trick. I don't know whether you noticed this. This is the top of a sock. This is a sports sock that my husband had made a hole in the toe of. And it's quite absorbent. And if you just cut the neck of the sock off, and then you can wear it on your wrist, and while you're painting, you can just pick up some paint, and if it's too wet, you just dab it on there. It's very handy, actually. Or if you don't fancy having it on your wrist, which you might not, then you can just leave it beside your paper, and it's just really handy to have it there like that. I'm going to dry this, and then I might just shape up some of these petals here where this one has kind of gone a little bit fuzzy. So I'll be back in a second, and we'll see what we can see. Okay, that's nice and dry now. So there's a couple of things I want to just do. And one of them is I want to just bring in another layer into the petals here. And, you know, bearing in mind we are modern watercolorists, we don't have to be too accurate or too, you know, whatever. We just kind of splash paint around, don't we, willy-nilly, and enjoy it, because why wouldn't you? It's not as if we're trying to sell our work or anything dumb like that. I mean, who would want to do a thing like that this day and age? And then I'm going to come in again with a bit more of the dark and dark red and some blue to give me some really dark darks. Mix that with the quinacridone gold to give me a sort of very dark brown. And I'm going to just put a little bit of definition at the base of the centers of the flowers, and let that run a bit because it's fun. Like that. Not on all of them. Don't want it to run on all of them, but some of them. And sort of like sometimes paint kind of half of it. Let it blur. And then we could use that same colour, wherever it's gone, there we are, on the veins of some of the leaves, for example. We've got some scratched in veins, but not all. So we'll just give a few. So do you remember that's the red, the blue, and the gold gives us a nice dark brown that makes these nice veins on these leaves. And if you just touch with the point of your brush, what was it I was trying to think of that I said I needed to replace because it wasn't working very well anymore? Well, no, not my husband, no. I mentioned him before. We have problems with vacuum cleaners, for example. Oh, I know, the tumble dryer, yes. I don't hardly ever use the tumble dryer. Only this time of the year, sometimes you need to, before you've kind of come to the understanding that you don't want to hang your washing out anymore because the winter is nearly here. So you can't put it in the garden to dry. We're okay here, we're allowed to do that. Yes, it works, but I think it's getting a little bit overheated. So I think it's probably going to be time. I'm not sure if husband can fix it anymore. Okay, well, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to let go. And don't go before you've given us a like, subscribed, and turned on notifications, including the bell thing where you go, oh yes, I do want to hear when she puts a new video up, because we depend on that. That's how I get to pay the milkman every week. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you again soon. Have fun. And if you do decide to buy some Brusho, don't forget to follow one of our links in the description below so that you go to Amazon and use our affiliate so that we get a tiny, tiny, tiny little amount of commission, which doesn't affect your price that you pay. It's just something that Amazon forks out for us. So that's good, isn't it? Always good to get money off the big boys. I'll let you go now. Have fun. Enjoy this. I did, and I'm sure you will too. So I'll let you go. See you again soon. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.